Imagine standing alone on a starship deck, unarmed, surrounded by towering alien soldiers who've already decided your fate. The order is simple: execute the human. But before a single blaster can rise, tiny shadows spill across the floor. Dozens of alien cubs, soft, wide-eyed, barely knee-high, march forward and form a living shield wall around you. Their voices shake, but their stance is unbroken. Why would an entire generation of alien young risk everything for one human? And what happens when the Admiral tries to force his way through? If this story already hooked you even a little, go ahead and tap like so more people can discover these wild HFY moments. And if you enjoy cinematic sci-fi stories with real heart, hit subscribe. It's totally free and it really helps the channel grow. Feel free to share this with a friend who loves aliens doing unexpectedly wholesome things. The command deck of the Varkan flagship felt unnaturally still, as if the air itself held its breath. Cold metal plates reflected the harsh overhead lights, framing the lone human standing at the center. Captain Jirohan, unarmed, exhausted, yet unshaken, kept his gaze forward while a half-circle of towering reptilian officers closed in around him. Their armor hummed faintly, a low vibration that made the floor tremble. Then the Admiral arrived. Admiral Threx's footsteps were slow, deliberate, each one echoing like a countdown. His obsidian crest lifted in a display of dominance as he approached the prisoner. When he spoke, his voice rippled across the chamber, deep and merciless. The human interfered with classified operations. Under Varkan law, interference is treason. Execute him, every officer stiffened. Blasters should have risen, targeting should have locked, procedure should have kicked in without hesitation. But nothing happened. Not a single weapon lifted. A thick, uneasy silence crept across the deck. Several soldiers shot nervous glances toward each other, quick, confused flickers of doubt. The Admiral noticed. His eyes narrowed into slits. Jiro felt the shift too. Something deeper than fear pulsed through the room. Something no human trial report had ever prepared him for. Why was everyone suddenly afraid to obey? Before the Admiral could snarl a second command, a small sound broke the tension-soft claws tapping against the metal floor. One tap. Then another, then dozens more. Every soldier on the deck froze. From the side corridors, tiny shapes emerged, Varkan cubs, barely waist-high, their scales still soft and shimmering with juvenile color. They weren't supposed to be here. Cubs were never allowed on a military bridge. Yet here they came, one after another, ears pinned back, eyes wide with fear. But not fear of the human, fear for him. The first cub marched straight to Jiro's side, planting its little feet with the bravery of someone who had no idea what death looked like. Another stepped up beside it, and then another. Within seconds, a full ring of cubs wrapped around the human. Bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, forming a trembling but determined shield wall. Gasps rippled across the officers. The Admiral's crest flared in rage. "Remove them, now!" But the soldiers didn't dare move. No Varkan warrior would ever risk harming a cub doing so was one of their most sacred taboos, and the cubs knew it. Jiro stared down at them, stunned. Their small faces trembled, yet not one stepped back. Why would the youngest of an alien species defy their own Admiral? For him, the Admiral's fury burned across the bridge, but the cubs didn't flinch. Their tiny bodies shook, yet they held their line as if their lives depended on it. Jiro's breath caught as memories drifted back, quiet moments from the long voyage, moments he never imagined would matter. It began weeks earlier during a supply crisis. The cubs' nutrient packs had spoiled, leaving them weak and frightened. Varkan adults followed strict protocol. No emotional comfort, no deviation, no coddling. But Jiro couldn't stand watching little ones starve while bureaucracy stalled. So he broke into engineering, jury-rigged a purifier, and spent hours mixing an improvised nutrient blend. It tasted awful, but it worked. The cubs remembered. He taught them simple games, helped them fix their broken learning tablets, even sat with the smallest one during a night terror episode when no adult responded. To Jiro, these were nothing more than basic acts of decency, things any human would do. But to the cubs? He was the only being aboard who treated them as more than future soldiers. Whispers had spread through their quarters, "The human protects us." The human listens, the human is safe. And now, facing an admiral's execution order, they were simply returning what had been given. They would protect him no matter the cost. The admiral stepped forward, fury rolling off him in waves. His crest flared so bright it cast sharp shadows across the deck. "Move aside," he growled, "or you will answer for this defiance." But the cubs stayed rooted, tiny claws scraping as they braced themselves. Their tails curled protectively around each other. A few whimpered, but none backed down. The adult officers stared in disbelief. They'd seen battles, mutinies, even rebellions across entire systems, yet nothing compared to the sight of their own young forming a living barricade. Disobeying the admiral was treason, but harming a cub? That was unthinkable. The whole Varkan fleet had collapsed over less. A senior officer shifted uneasily. "Admiral, we cannot force our way through them." Threx snapped around, eyes blazing. "You will obey." But even his authority had limits. No one moved, no one dared. Jiro raised his hands slowly, not to defend himself, but to calm the cubs trembling at his knees. "It's all right," he whispered. "You don't have to do this." But they only pressed closer. Silence swelled, thick and dangerous. One wrong step could ignite a ship-wide revolt. One wrong word could shatter a centuries-old hierarchy. And everyone on that bridge knew it. The tension on the bridge felt like a storm waiting to break. The admiral towered over the scene, breath sharp, rage visible in every line of his posture. But rage alone couldn't move the wall of cubs, or the growing number of adults who now stepped forward, casting uncertain glances at their leader. Commander Vec, second in command, finally spoke. His voice was steady but carried the weight of a decision he knew could change everything. "Admiral, if the young believe the human is worth protecting, then perhaps we should question why." A murmur rippled across the deck. Officers exchanged looks, fear, hesitation, then something new, conviction. The admiral's jaw tightened. "You would challenge my authority for a human?" "For the future of our people," Vec replied. "If the young see him as ally, we must understand why. We must choose the path they trust." One by one, officers lowered their weapons not toward Jiro, but toward the floor, signaling refusal. The admiral stood alone. With a crackling hiss of defeat, he turned away. "Very well. The human lives." A cheer burst from the cubs high, relieved, overflowing with joy. Jiro knelt among them, overwhelmed, as tiny arms wrapped around him. He had arrived on this ship as an outsider. He had just left this moment as something far greater. A protector, a friend, a legend in the making.